I'm Shannon.
And I'm Holly, and this is a Girls Gone Curious podcast, where we talk about things that make us curious. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and relax, because your show is loading. Today's episode includes the following trigger warnings: mentioning topics of physical abuse, isolation, sexual assault of a child, and murder. This podcast is not suitable for children. Please listen with care. We do apologize if we say any of the names or places wrong in today's case. This week's true crime category was our choice. So, let's get into it.
So every once in a while, there is a case that sticks with you, and for no rhyme or reason, it just stays in your head that you have to do. This was one of those cases. I actually started researching it last year, like when we first started our podcast, and now I get to talk about it. Sometimes parents send their children to facilities that are supposed to teach life skills, but instead, for one family, the facility employed a criminal that would take their daughter's life. This is the case of Janie Landers. Janie was born on February 20th, 1961 in North Bend, Oregon, to parents Richard and Shirley Landers. Janie would be one of 6 children. The children in order from oldest to youngest were Carolyn, Janie, Rachel, Joyce, Charles, and Angie. Janie and Joyce were the closest of all the children. They often played together and were practically inseparable. As a young child, Janie always wanted to be outside playing. It didn't really matter what it was, she just wanted to be outside. And if there was a game where running was involved, even better. By age 7, Janie's parents would notice that their daughter was developmentally impaired and seek help from the Q's mental health facility. Janie had tested for a low IQ and some learning disabilities. The doctors there recommended Janie go to the Fairview Training Center for further testing. The doctors here would recommend that Janie become a full-time resident to get the help and training she would need. This would take a toll on the family, especially Janie's younger sister Joyce. Now remember, she's only 7 at the time and she's going to this facility, and they're wanting her to be there full-time. I stated that they were inseparable before, and now they wouldn't see one another for weeks and months at a time. Janie would get to call home, or her family could call often, but it wasn't the same. Janie wanted to see her family more than she did. The letters her family sent would help also. She especially loved getting her sister Joyce's letters. They were always long and fun. Some issues arose pretty quickly after Janie became a full-time resident at Fairview. Richard and Shirley would call to schedule a time for a visit or for Janie to come home for a visit. It was somehow always pushed off by the facility staff. Richard would go to the center and ask to see his daughter, and sometimes he could, and sometimes he couldn't. There were instances where Richard would drive up to the center to see his daughter, and he would be informed then that Janie was moved to another cottage on the premises. So unfortunately, he would have to reschedule the visit for another date and time.
That rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. So I think they lived about an hour away or so. They could have informed the parents of which cottage Janie was in, and that was definitely not the case until they got there. And then they're like, oh, well, actually, she was put into this cottage now, so you can't see her, so now you have to reschedule for another date and time.
No.
Yeah.
He's the fucking parent.
Right.
He should be able to see his daughter when he wants to see her.
Right. Richard and Shirley would begin to question what the hell was going on with their daughter. They would question everything and when they could bring Janie home for good. They would be told by staff that Janie might be able to go after this next training is complete. And then there was another training that she needed to complete, and so on and so on. This is what led to Janie becoming a permanent resident and eventually a ward of the state of Oregon. Right. So definitely some shady shit already.
Yeah.
So this Fairview Training Center, This facility was supposed to give Janie all of the skills that she would need to be able to take care of herself. In 1979, Janie was 18, but because of her developmental disability, she was mentally the age of 8. March 9th, 1979. Janie was in class as she would be on a typical day. She had a meeting with her favorite counselor, Bill Graff. He explained to Janie that he was not going to be able to have her as a patient anymore. At the time, Janie was staying in Kaiser Cottage, and her teacher stated that she looked like she was heading in that direction. Janie never arrived. The staff, after reportedly looking for Janie for some time, would report her as AWOL. The Oregon State Police would get a call later that day from the Fairview Training Center stating that there was a patient that left the facility and had not been able to be located. Investigators would arrive and talk to several employees and other residents. One counselor reported that the entire staff was talking about Janie throughout the day. She didn't understand why no one called when it was first noticed that Janie went missing. When questioned, 4 witnesses saw Janie talking to a man that was driving a yellow or tan sedan around 2 p.m. The man was described as wearing a maroon t-shirt and khaki or mustard-colored pants. He looked to be between the ages of 35 and 40, shaggy dark blonde hair, and had a potbelly. He appeared to be between 200 and 230 pounds and was driving a gold or yellow sedan. All 4 witnesses described this individual the same, but no one knew who he was or which direction he came from. So keep that in mind that with the 4 witnesses and the description. The Fairview Training Center did have restrictions in place. For instance, residents couldn't leave the premises without obtaining permission. Residents did have to be back on the premises before a certain time, if they were even approved to leave. Staff couldn't have contact with residents outside of the center. This particular day, it was believed that over 100 employees were there at the center at some point throughout the day. Investigations turned to the person who was believed to be the last person to talk to Janie before she was seen with the unknown man. That person was Janie's counselor, Bill Graff. Bill stated that Janie loved to color. She was very kind and loving. He also stated that Janie had skills that she used daily. Janie liked to clean up the area where she was living, like doing the dishes, those kinds of things. Bill also said there was an instance that recently happened where Janie had to be moved to another cottage because of the circumstances. Janie at that time had a roommate named Cheryl. Cheryl had been heating up chili on the stove. The 2 girls must have had a fight because Janie grabbed the pot of hot chili and dumped it over Cheryl's head, burning her. Investigators asked if that is what had Janie so upset that day, and he said no. Police pushed and asked what was the reasoning that Janie ran off then, that day. Bill explained that the day before, he had explained to Janie that her insurance plan had changed and therapy was no longer going to be covered under her new insurance, so she would be seeing someone else from now on. Then move forward to the next day, March 9th, and Janie wanted to talk to him to figure out why and possibly a different solution. Bill had explained there wasn't anything he could do, and then Janie took off. Bill was being questioned repeatedly because he fit the description of the man that was talking to Janie outside of the center. Investigators would request that Bill take a polygraph test. He did take one, and he passed. At this time, police had no other potential suspects.
They literally had a description of the person and nothing?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Right. It's the question of inconsistent handling of evidence is going to be throughout, for sure. On March 14th, 1979, Janie's body would be found by the Silver Creek Falls Park, miles from the Fairview Training Center. After the initial interviews and further investigation, Janie's case would go cold and would be closed. Her case would be worked on several times due to the continuous leads that came in from 1979 to 2001, but no arrests were ever made, and her case would get closed again. There were a few times, though, where Janie's case was reopened to see if her case matched the victimology for serial killers, but unfortunately, it did not match, and her case was closed again. In 2001, Janie's case would be opened again at the request of Joyce, her sister, to please look into the case again. Another reason Janie's case was open was because the evidence in her case needed to be thoroughly reviewed. This was done so that the evidence could be properly stored with the new technology, so that it wouldn't continue to degrade. This included clothing she had been wearing, samples of blood, autopsy reports, recordings, witness statements, photographs, etc. One detective noticed that in the autopsy report, 4 hairs were noted as being found in Janie's hand. Hairs were not a part of the evidence. No one knew what happened to them. Undeveloped film was still in the evidence boxes, so that would have to be sent to be processed. During this time, Detective Ken Pacino was reviewing the case. Detectives determined that there were a few people of interest. One of the persons of interest again was her counselor, Bill Graff. He was the last person to see her right before she walked off. Graff was no longer going to be employed through the Fairview Center due to loss of funding. So it wasn't that Janie's insurance was changing. I mean, it was. They were no longer going to have therapy as part of the program.
So it wasn't her insurance necessarily. It was
Right.
because they couldn't afford to
Right.
do therapy, even though the specific facility is to help people through therapy and
Right.
what the fuck?
And it's state funded. So there's that too. It's a state facility.
And how the fuck?
Right. So whose pockets we're getting. Anyways, we're going to get into something.
Oh, yeah.
So Graff did pass the polygraph test back in 1979, but he was still a person of interest. Due to the facts of the case and all of the additional information Graff had provided, he was dismissed as a person of interest from this point on.
Just because he had information, possibly that information he knew because...
Yeah. And also because he passed the polygraph test, but no one has ever passed a polygraph test and lied on it.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Just like no one has ever told the truth and failed the polygraph test.
Ray Wright was another person of interest. He was the boyfriend of Janie's old roommate, Cheryl. Wright had made statements that he was going to harm Janie for what she did. However, Wright was eventually cleared from any involvement with Janie's death. During this review of Janie's case, other information would come to light. Looking over the autopsy report, other key information was listed but didn't appear to have been looked into in 1979. Janie fought her attacker hard. She did have several defensive wounds on her body, as well as the 4 hairs that she yanked out. Detectives determined that there was more than one way that the attacker used to try to kill Janie. The cause of death was ruled to be blunt force trauma to the head, but she had been stabbed several times. The stab wounds were very deep, and there was no hilt abrasions present. So, side note, hilt abrasions occur on the victim when the blade of the knife enters and has been stopped by the hilt or part of the handle. On the victim, there would be bruising around the wound if the knife had a
hilt.
Hilt, yes, thank you. On Janie, there wasn't any type of bruising around the stab wounds.
So was there no hilt on the knife?
That's what they're thinking, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So with this information, the detectives believe that Janie's attacker would have had wounds from the knife and or several scratches from Janie fighting back. Now, Janie was 5'1", and they said maybe 110 pounds. So she was petite and very strong for her age. So they said that she definitely fought extremely hard to whoever was attacking her, and they started to... Most of her stab wounds were from her chest up. She did have some like on her lower arms, but most of them were from the chest up. And then it appeared that she had been hit in the head with like a rock or something. Looking back through witness statements and notes in the case, there was no mention of this information anywhere. No mention of anyone possibly being looked at because of wounds they all of a sudden had. Also noted in the autopsy report was the stomach contents. This is important because it showed that Janie most likely died on the day she went missing. By the pictures shown of where Janie was found, this was not the location she was killed. There was no sign of fighting or blood on the scene besides what was on Janie. Janie's case, although a significant amount of information was verified and found out, would hit another standstill. In 2015, with the advancements in technology, Joyce requested that the police reopen her sister's case. On June 25, 2015, the Trace Evidence Lab in Oregon was visited by detectives. They wanted to see what they could or should bring that would provide information to the lab. All evidence was dropped on July 6, 2015. After a long wait, on April 5, 2016, there was a DNA match from a sample of blood that was on a piece of Janie's clothing. Gerald Kenneth Dunlap. I didn't find any information on him as far as when he was born or any of that stuff because I don't care.
Agreed.
Dunlap was in Tennessee in 1961 and had decided to rob a laundromat. Dunlap then sexually assaulted the clerk at gunpoint. The prosecutor at that time tried for the death penalty, which honestly surprises me that that was even a thing at that time for victims of sexual assault.
Yeah, normally sexual assault victims, well, sexual assaulters get a slap on the wrist, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Dunlap was sentenced to life in prison instead. He was then paroled in 1973 for who knows why, and then he decided to move to California.
So he didn't even
serve more than...
He served...
13 years, maybe?
What the fuck?
Yeah.
But he got life in prison. How the fuck does that work?
I don't know if they had to... I don't know if they had to empty the prisons or if it was good behavior, or I honestly don't know.
I don't understand. Sentenced to life in prison, but yet...
You can get paroled after 10 years, basically.
Then don't fucking say sentenced to life.
Yeah. Say up to 25 years or whatever. Some shit like that, God. Yeah. He had to register as a sex offender in the state of California. In 1974, he moved to Oregon, and he did not have to register as a sex offender.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Dunlap got a job in the laundry department at Fairview. He worked there from 1976 to 1983. During the time he worked there, he was noted as liking to hike frequently in the area where Janie's body was found. He would frequently try to get residents to get into his car, and some of the female co-workers would say he was creepy. Reports were made on Dunlap, but there was no follow-up done. Dunlap would then be arrested for first-degree sexual assault of a family member. He would serve his sentence at Oregon Snake River Correctional Facility, where he died in prison in January of 2002. So how does this all tie together? So unfortunately, Janie's mom had passed away in 2014 before she could learn who the individual was that took her daughter from their family. Joyce was so determined, she continued to push for her sister's killer to be found. She also made a statement that she was hoping her sister's case would be solved soon. She was worried her dad, who was failing health, would pass before it would be solved. Fortunately for Joyce's family to get some sort of closure, they were able to find out that it was Dunlap who had killed Janie in 2016. Her dad passed away in 2024. The family mentioned that they were thankful that although Dunlap couldn't be brought to trial and justice to be served, that they were thankful that they finally knew who was responsible for Janie's murder. So questions and thoughts on this part. Our mantra seems to be, what the fuck? So...
Catchphrase.
Right. Why wasn't Dunlap looked into as a suspect? He fit the description. There were reports on his actions at work. There were several reports or complaints at work. He literally fit the description to a T. Why wasn't he ever looked into? Like, none of the employees, it doesn't seem like any of the employees were looked at, and I don't understand why.
Besides Bill,
correct, sorry. Besides Bill, why wasn't this guy looked at? Because he worked in laundry? Like, who the hell cares where they work in the facility?
Yeah, you should investigate anyone that fits the description. And even more.
Yeah. And there would have had to have been some sort of log. I don't know how they handled payroll at the time, but if there was like a punch-in system or something of that nature, they could have checked everybody who worked that day.
Yeah. Unless he was being like paid under the table.
Yeah. Well, I did find in one of the reports that there was actually payroll logs of him.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it was all
Legal.
I'm assuming. No other suspects or people of interest. I don't understand. Like, in the beginning, it was just Bill, and then it was Bill and Ray, but nobody else.
Yeah.
Or at least they didn't mention anybody else.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Another question I had were any other employees talked to? There was said to be 2 women that worked in the snack bar area. Dunlap would come onto them and just be all around creepy. He was there that day and he matched the description. So there was 2 women that saw him, or that he actually came to the snack bar, got food, and he matched the description. I don't understand why they weren't talked to. Why weren't they talked to? Why wasn't Dunlap talked to?
Yeah.
Like, how many more victims did he do stuff to before he was arrested for sexually assaulting his family member?
Was this case didn't have the investigation it should have been because it was that type of facility?
And that's what I'm wondering, because Janie was developmentally impaired, that they were just like, oh, well, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but it really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And I want to know why wasn't all of the film developed? Like, why did it take until 2001 for film to be developed, and what the hell were on those pictures?
Yeah, that's one of my questions. What was on the film?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Any questions on that part?
My first one, as you were going through this case, is did they actually spend the time fully looking for her?
So reading through statements and articles and all the things. So the last time Janie was seen was 2:00. I don't know when they called in, but the wording makes it seem like they didn't call until like after sometime in the evening or something like that.
Was it like they looked for her, but when they just did a brief look, they couldn't find her, waited a little bit expecting her to show up, and then called in?
That's what I'm thinking. There was a incident report too where Janie had taken off before. So I don't know if they were thinking, oh, she'll just come back, and then she never did. So I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there is people who really did look for her that were involved, but I feel like some of the other people probably didn't. Yeah. Especially if she ran away before.
They were probably just like, oh, it's whatever. But regardless, if she did run away before and came back, first of all, where the hell did she go that time? Like, where did they find her? Like, that could be something. Was Dunlap working at that time? Like, there's so many questions that are not answered in that regard.
So this facility was an open facility. It didn't have like any fences or anything like that?
No, it doesn't seem. No, it was like it kind of looked almost like a campus, like a school campus. There was like the main building, and then like the cottages that were where the permanent residents could stay.
Yeah. Or kind of like a campground type situation, like a KOA.
Yeah, kind of.
Where you have like the main building and then you have a bunch of
smaller buildings. Yeah.
But obviously the main building is probably like bigger than the actual.
Yeah, it's like about the size of, look like to be like a hospital.
Okay. If she was really 8 years old mentally, I'm trying to understand why they wouldn't keep like an eye on her.
Right. That's one thing I was wondering too.
If she's an 8-year-old mentally, she doesn't have the process to completely understand everything.
Right.
And I get they were working towards that, like trying to get her to be able to do stuff on her own. But if she really still had that 8-year-old mentality.
Right.
It just... And then it begs the question, did she really have 8-year-old mentality?
That's what I was wondering too, because So I'm just picturing, like, there's no fencing, there's no walls up of any kind, there's nothing to stop. And, like, are there people who are older than that, but they're mentally only like a 5 or 6 year old? I mean, is there,
Yeah.
and they just let them walk wherever they want to?
Yeah,
Like,
that confuses me.
Yeah.
And if it's an open facility,
Mm-hmm.
people can come and go
Mhm.
without having to check in
Right.
or anything. So really, anyone could fucking come in
Right.
and do what they did to
Mhm.
Janie.
Yeah. So that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, I didn't like the pictures that I saw were not necessarily Fairview, but the way they're described, there isn't like gates or anything like that. So I don't.
So weird.
Yeah.
I would imagine that they would have like at least a station where one way in
Mm-hmm.
so they could watch people come in, but again, it's the 1970s.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't.
I'm assuming probably not.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that they would have a check-in, like a front desk or something like that, that you would check in and they would have somebody there monitoring that all the time. But then where some of the residents had their own cottages, how are they monitoring those? So I honestly don't know.
Yeah. And then back to her supposedly only having the mentality of an 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But yet she was in her own cottage with
Mm-hmm.
like kitchen and all this stuff because there was that one incident where she poured hot food on her roommate.
Right.
So it's like, did she really have the mentality of an 8-year-old or not? Because I wouldn't let an 8-year-old have a full kitchen with stove where you could burn yourself, knives, and
it's very, a lot of things are extremely questionable.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that as well in the next section. But
and also her understanding insurance as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like her health insurance, seems like she completely understands that.
At least to some degree, because he said that he wouldn't be able to be her counselor anymore because her
health insurance. Yeah.
Right.
So, and she
was
even
changing.
She went to him and asked him about it. Like that to me seems like she's capable.
Mm-hmm.
And if she was capable of taking care of herself, why wouldn't they let her go home?
Yeah.
Why would they continue saying, oh, she needs to do another treatment and then she can go home?
Yeah.
But then say, oh, she needs to do another one.
And then continue.
And if her counseling was done, she should have been just able to go home because they can't do anything else to help her if she can't have a counselor and therapist and all that. So what's the point of her being there if they can't do anything for her?
So she had been there, most of her life. She had been there around 11 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. She was
7 or 8.
Yeah, and she was 18 in 79. So, yeah, she'd been there about 11 years. Yeah, not as a permanent resident, but off and on. And then she did become a permanent resident. Yeah. So that's a long time.
Well, and the whole fact that they wouldn't let her family members see her when
right. And it's like, what are they trying to cover up? Like, was there abuse going on? That was my first thought, was that she was being treated poorly
or something.
And they were trying to, oh, well, actually, if you want to come up in a couple more weeks, then we can brainwash her some more. The bruises will be healed, that kind of thing. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then this isn't necessarily like about this case, but how many cold cases are out there that have DNA that could be processed that is not being processed?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. I want to say it's like, I don't remember where I saw this, so I guess I don't want to say anything, but I want to say it's like only 1% of over 100,000 cold cases get solved. So that means there's over 100, like in my mind, there's over 100,000 cases that are that are closed, not because they were solved, but because they're don't have information to, or that haven't been reopened
Yeah.
because of the evidence, whether it's DNA, hair I mean, all the things DNA you can get from hair samples. Fucking idiot, but the possibility of DNA, but then you also have the possibility of, was it stored correctly? Did the evidence degrade? Well, of course it did, especially if it wasn't stored correctly.
Yeah.
Like, all those instances.
But there is still the possibility they have DNA,
Right.
and they could run it through the system at
Right.
least to see if there was a match.
Right. So in the interview that the police department was giving, not the police department, sorry, the state police was giving at the time, I believe it was Detective Hinkle, when they solved her case, they said that at any given time, detective has open cases, a good amount of open cases. Regardless, I understand you have to work everything and there isn't enough man hours in the day. And he did say that one of the biggest, basically like kick in the pants, is a family member or a friend that is constantly like advocating for their loved one. Like, hey, what are you doing with this one? Why haven't you opened this? Why is it closed? What have you done recently? It's been 5 years. You don't have time to open it? Make time. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, would her case even be looked at again in 2015 if it wasn't for Joyce?
Right. And that's what I wonder. Like, would it still be a cold case?
Yeah.
Would it still be
untouched
sitting there?
And DNA slowly withering away?
Because they were bringing it up to the standards that were there in 2001. And they were digitizing everything. And unfortunately, sometimes when you digitize stuff, it ruins it. Other times it makes it better, that kind of thing. But sometimes it does, evidence does get destroyed in that process. So I don't know if some evidence was destroyed. Luckily, though, they did have the DNA sample on some of her clothing that she was wearing at the time.
It says there is, as of 2024, there are over 250,000 unsolved murder cases.
Oh my God.
Additionally, from 1965 to 2023, nearly 346,000 cases of homicide and non-negligence manslaughter remained unsolved.
And that's just the cases where the individual died. We're not even talking about
missing
or heinous crimes. Like, we're not talking about
sexual assault.
Right. That is so crazy to me. So let's just take the ones where the victim was unfortunately murdered. It's odd to me that there isn't a task force just to tackle
cold
those
cases.
Whether it was like nationwide or, it's just odd to me. Like,
yeah, I feel like they should make a group organization that is just dedicated to cold cases.
Right.
I'm sure there's people out there who would sign up for it.
Me. Me.
Even if it's just running old DNA that hasn't been ran at all or hasn't been ran since 2000 or later.
Right. And you also have the instance of fresh eyes looking at everything.
Yeah.
Not that anybody did anything wrong at the time, but a fresh set of eyes, multiple people working on it instead of just one individual who has a caseload of like 75 cases and then trying to work on cold cases as well.
And also have a biased opinion since if it happened in their town and their city.
Right.
Because sometimes they will have biased opinions.
Oh, absolutely.
You'll have that strange person in the community that you'll point fingers at.
Right. But I volunteer. I have a criminal justice background. I volunteer.
My next question is, again, not necessarily related to this case, but it's just something that popped in my head. It's the sex offender not having to register.
Yeah. So I don't know if one of the articles that I read stated that they did not have to register at the time because it wasn't enacted, not enacted. It wasn't policy yet in Oregon.
That is so stupid.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until 1994 that the enactment of the Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children and Sexually Violated Offender Registration Act in 1994 that all states would have to, all sex offenders would have to register in every single state.
Yeah, they didn't, like you said, it didn't become national until 1994. The state of Oregon was 1989 is when they required people to start registering as a sex offender. So you had that whole entire time, Dunlap was not registered in Oregon because he didn't have to. It wasn't a requirement in the state of Oregon. So that whole entire time, who knows what he was doing.
Oh man. It's just crazy to me that that's didn't happen until 1994. So how many states didn't adapt to that until 1994?
Right.
And how many people got away with sexually assaulting and living a normal life in a possible neighborhood with lots of
children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not even children, but anyone, everyone.
Right. Without anybody being able to know.
Yeah. It's fucking disgusting.
If you were mad before, keep that energy.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, so some information on Fairview. Quite frankly, this place was horrible and a joke of a healthcare facility. Fairview was built in 1907 and opened in December of 1908 as Oregon State Institution for the Developmentally Disabled. 39 patients were actually transferred from the Oregon State Insane Asylum. By 1981, Fairview housed over 1,300 residents with developmental disabilities and mental health disorders. This training center, to some, was known simply as hell. Some residents recalled being referred to as inmates instead of patients or residents. They would be punished with leather cuffs, straps, and whips. Some were even disciplined by being forced into isolation cages. Over the time frame from opening to the 1980s, it is said that there were over 2,600 forced sterilizations that occurred. This would include, I want to reiterate, forced vasectomies, hysterectomies, tubal ligations, and castrations.
What the fuck?
Right. None of these individuals signed off on it. I'm assuming they were all wards of the state, so the state employees, the caregivers, the faculty, the whole thing was like, yeah, we're going to do this. Let's.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And they probably didn't even inform family members that actually cared about their children.
Yeah. It wasn't until 2002 that it seemed to catch attention that those were the conditions some of the residents were going through.
Huh?
Yeah. So
that's almost like 100 years since opening.
Yeah. So there was some a lot of pushback, and it actually closed in 2000, but it wasn't until 2002 that it was like, oh, okay, like there was a lot of bad shit going on, and we're sorry, is basically what I got out of it. It's like, we're sorry that happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it did, and we're sorry. That's
But you're not.
pretty much the gist of what I got from that.
But you're not, because you still did it.
Yeah. So Fairview was listed as being really strict with all residents, staff, and family members. Well, strict enough to not do background checks, since pedophiles and rapists could work there.
What the fuck? Only strict to the
residents and the family members. Yeah. Residents described some days that they just wanted to be left alone, and they would get punished with straps that would sting really badly when they were hit with them. Other residents described their time in hell as being beaten up badly, yelled at, thrown in closets, hit with shoes, and staff would dump scalding water on them to punish them. Residents would be restrained with cuffs, straps, straitjackets, and then given high doses of sedatives and psychotropic medications. These horrific actions were still taking place even when graduate students would begin their rounds at the facility. So whenever they started allowing like graduate students to come and get their, what's it called? Like maybe residency or something going, or their internships, the graduate students would see this. And I couldn't find the exact graduate student that seemed to spark this downfall, like not downfall, but spark this investigation. But a graduate student was working at Fairview and was a witness to some of these horrific incidents. One incident the student described was that residents were handcuffed to 60-pound blocks, and then they were forced to push them up and down the hall until the staff told them to stop. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't listen to something specific or didn't answer a question quick enough. Or honestly, it seemed like the staff just felt like they should do it. So when the U.S. Department of Justice and the Healthcare Financing Administration finally decided to investigate, they were not ready for what they found. You think? The conditions were not hidden, and they were literally out in the open for all to view. Funding was stopped immediately, and a long-term plan to close Fairview was put into action. Fairview was permanently closed on February 24th, 2000. So keep in mind, it was closed in 2000, and then in 2002, it was like, oh, that actually really did happen, so we're sorry. That's what you get is we're sorry. As one would imagine, several artifacts and records were somehow lost or obviously destroyed, so there isn't much left of Fairview. There seems to be the stories of the residents who lived there, some records and some pictures, but not of any of the acts that were committed.
The torture, basically.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Mm-hmm. The property that Fairview sat on was sold, and the proceeds from the sale were put into the Fairview Housing Trust. It is said that individuals with developmental disabilities can get grants for home modifications. Supposedly, over 1,000 individuals have benefited from these grants to date. So questions and thoughts on this part. I want to know, how did no one report conditions of abuse before the 80s? Like, there had to be a way to do it, and it wasn't just, oh, well, this is what happens here, so we're just going to let it go. Like, hundreds of employees at this building, and everybody was just like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Like,
yeah, that's one of my main questions. Like, no one said anything
right
before that resident.
Right. It just blows me away. And I just keep thinking about all the family members that were like the Landers family. Like, were they lied to, and what the fuck was going on in there that these employees wanted to push so hard for these individuals to become wards of the state? Is it because they had a power trip and they wanted to abuse these people because they felt like they were less than, or some sick and twisted bullshit?
Or they thought someone higher up started pocketing money from this, and I don't know, because it's just,
there has to be some sort of corrupt bullshit going on, because I just don't understand. I don't understand. Granted, I was going to say I wasn't born in that time, but I was born in 80. So, but I still don't, like, I was too young to understand all that stuff. But it just really pisses me off that it seems to be that they were treated worse than animals, honestly. Like, worse than, like, they were treated like they were criminals. And that hasn't, yeah.
And I bet you some of these people didn't even have a disability.
Yeah.
I bet they were regular people that some probably family members just threw in this place.
Right. Because then they wouldn't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're telling me no family members, no parents found out what was happening to them?
Yeah.
Out of all those years, no parents noticed anything.
Yeah.
And it just makes me believe, is the police there corrupt at the time? Did they get reports and just brush it under the table? Was the person in that facility that was a higher up, was he paying the police to brush it under the table?
Yeah. There's so many, so many possibilities because none of it makes sense to me.
No. It's fucking bullshit.
Agreed. And that's why I put, why did it take so long to investigate?
Yeah.
That's like over 100 employees. I'm just giving, I guess, that time that Janie was there. But over 100 employees, nobody said a damn thing. Nobody reported anything. Like 100 people were like, yeah, this is okay. We can totally do this. This is normal. This is how we're supposed to treat people. They're fucking human beings, for crying out loud.
Does not make sense to me.
And I had a question in regards to like criminal background checks. When did it start being when did it start becoming a mandated process in Oregon? You want to know the horrible part about this? Like even more horrible part? Like actually to me it's absolutely absurd. It did not become
Said, am I reading that right?
Yeah. It was not mandated for criminal background checks for medical facilities until January 4th, 2016. That's not nationwide. That's in the state of Oregon. So I don't know.
What the fuck is the state of Oregon fucking doing?
Yeah, I'm blown away that
2016.
Yeah, I'm assuming they did background checks of some nature, being in medical facilities, to be employed there anyways. But a criminal background check, I would think that would be included in that. But maybe it's depending on what crime you committed. They're like, well, you can work here. You just can't do this job, or you can't go past this level. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm blown away.
I don't have words to.
Yeah. I literally sat there and looked at the article and this was on the government website. I'm speechless, honestly, that it took that long for it to be a requirement.
2016.
Yeah.
That was only 10 years ago.
Right. Now, it's not to say that some medical facilities probably weren't already practicing this. Yeah. But to where they had to make it a law and it didn't go into effect until 2016, that is absurd to me.
At what point did the state realize that this had to be mandated? How many people were either assaulted, killed, or something else? Their information was released because of these people. What had to happen to finally Oregon to decide to mandate this? Right. And I wish I had the answer. Yeah. It makes no fucking sense.
Agreed. That is all my thoughts, I think. Questions.
I only have one more question, and I don't know if you can answer or not. Yeah. What happened to all of the residents after the facility shut down?
So if the residents hadn't passed away, by the time it shut down, they were integrating these individuals into more community-based care, like group homes,
living centers,
yeah, stuff things like that were more community-based and not being treated like inmates, supposedly. Okay. And the last resident left on that specific date in 2000. And
that's crazy.
So that's when it was officially closed.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm assuming some of them probably went back to their family. Maybe.
I think so, yeah.
But hopefully all of them went to a safe place where they were treated like human beings, like they should be treated.
Right.
Yeah. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought exactly.
Oh, man. I really thought Bill was going to have something to do with it.
So did I, honestly, because he was mentioned so many times.
yeah.
And there's still so many discrepancies in the investigation that, I mean, obviously Dunlap's blood was on her sweater, or on her sweater that she was wearing. But I still, I don't know what the questions were asked during the polygraph. I don't know. It just seemed like at first he was going to be the one for sure that was going to be like, yeah, that's him. But there's so many discrepancies in the case itself, like handling of the evidence. Where the hell did those hairs go? Not that necessarily they could have done DNA on the hairs at the time, but why the hell weren't more people questioned?
Mm-hmm.
And if they were questioned, why wasn't that made knowledge?
Documented.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Why wasn't it documented? Why the hell weren't the women who said, I don't know if they were, why the hell weren't the 2 employees that were working the snack bar, why weren't their statements investigated? Like, there's so much in here. I just don't understand.
That's what has me thinking that the police were being paid off or something. Yeah. Because there's so many people involved in this facility, residents, staff, even family members that had to notice something. There had to be reports.
Yeah, and I just don't understand. And then, of course, all of the documentation being conveniently destroyed.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to say one of the remaining cottages burnt down before the final sale of the property, or it burnt down right after the property. And I'm like, that's convenient. Is that where records were stored? I don't know. It's just, that's how it just doesn't make any sense to me.
The only other thing I can think is the police thought these people as less than.
Yeah.
Because this was a basically institution.
Right.
There's a lot of questions and a lot of what the fuck moments and what the fuck were police doing?
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I had an answer, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. There's just way too much going on.
Yeah. Don't understand.
Me neither.
I just feel like I hope that Bill didn't do anything, but with the way everything was, I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Right, and he supposedly, everything he stated seemed like he cared for her as a patient. So why the hell didn't he report any of the things going on?
Maybe the facility had, I don't know, blackmail on him that he couldn't, but I can't.
True, yeah.
There's just so many questions and theories that we could go on about that will never be answered.
Right. And actually, when there is a press conference where the lead investigator is being questioned, or they're not being questioned, but it's like a Q&A type of Q&A type of thing, and they're explaining how they came to find Janie's killer. And one of the questions asked was talking about the discrepancies in the case, and the officer deflects and says, we can't speak to what happened at that time. No, you have records of who was on the case at the time and what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
But whatever, I guess.
Fucking stupid. That's what it is. I believe that is all my questions and thoughts as of now. Same. Until it's 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
Think of something else.
Right.
Our hearts go out to the victims in this case and all individuals affected. With that is all we have for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Girls Gone Curious Podcast. Until next time.